shining some light on the dark room. We'll have details next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. Well, the dark room is an interesting space in Grand Center. It's recently moved, and there are some new things ahead. We'd like to welcome Jason Gray. Hi, Jason.
Hi.
And I wasn't sure what to call you because you're transitioning there yourself, too.
Yeah, that's right. So currently I'm curator for the dark room, and we'll be announcing some exciting things with regard to a change to that.
Okay. I have a feeling a lot of people don't know what the dark room is. It's only been there about 3-4 years, maybe?
Yeah, just over 3 years, 3.5, 4 years. And originally we were same side of the street, just across the alley in a smaller venue space.
On Grand, same side of the Fox, I guess the next block up?
Yeah, that's right.
Right, yeah. The first time I met you was a few years ago. You were on this program. I had you here because of the dark room. What can you tell me about the history of the dark room initially? Because I predates you a year or two.
Yeah, sure. So it's a venue for the arts, right? And that includes performing arts such as music. We have food and drink. There have been sommeliers attached to this space in the past. And of course, it's a photography gallery, which is where the name derives, right? The dark room.
Yeah.
So
I haven't been to your new space yet. I've been meaning to go, but the old place I've been a couple of times. And what I was really impressed about it was it wasn't like any other venue I'd ever been to before, because this is the old place. You'll have to tell me if the new place is different, but I walked in, there's a couple of small dark rooms, a nice bar where you could get some food items and things, and photographs on the wall, and a live performance. It was such a neat environment. Yeah,
I think the older space was because it was smaller, kind of forced all of these things together into one kind of general space or atmosphere. The new space, it gives you that same sense of intimacy, but you have a little bit more breathing room between those various functions. So you can go into the new venue just to see a music performance, for instance, and enjoy drinks or dinner and do just that.
More square footage.
Exactly, more square footage and more separation between each of the things that are occurring.
Well, you didn't move very far from your old space on Grand, just a block north, Grandel Theater. People remember that. That's where the Black Rep was based for years.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And we have a picture of the building there. And the Black Rep moved out a couple of years ago. So what part of the building are you in?
We are in, so we're looking from the north toward the south. So it's the north-facing side of the building. And just inside those doors at the top of the stairs is the entrance lobby for the dark room. So those 5 vertical windows on the lower level, those are windows that face into the dining room area. And the dark room essentially follows that whole length of that wall right there. So just inside there.
What about the second, third floor and the tower there? Are they vacant? Or?
They are vacant but in use. So the tower actually, back when it was a church, right? There was an apartment in there for the caretaker. And there's still remnants of that there that's not yet been utilized or renovated.
I'd like to rent that out.
Yeah. The space directly above the dark room with the large stained glass window, that's an event space. So that is available. And then on the other side of the building is the theater. So it's a...
Right, now that's the theater where people have gone to see the Black Rep.
Yeah, that's right.
And so are you renovating that or something?
It's renovated. So there are several... various groups that are taking up residencies in that space, including St. Louis University, Shakespeare's in that space. So yeah, pretty exciting things are going on.
Okay, so the building faces what street then? The side of it's on Grand.
Yeah, Grand and Grandel.
Grandel, right. So the Grand side, people remember, there was a green space that really wasn't used for much for years, and right now that's in the middle of reconstruction. What's going on?
Yeah, so it's going to be a little pocket park. It's named after the school across the street, the Grand Center Arts Academy, and it'll be a great resource both for the dark room and for the Grandel and for the community of Grand Center.
Okay. We've got some shots of the interior, just gallery space and things going on. Why don't we take a look at those, and you can comment on what we're looking at.
Sure.
Well, it looks like you're moving in.
Yes, yeah, so we've moved in. The renovation of the darkroom space was conducted by Space Architecture. locally.
Space architecture and design, right?
Yes, yep. So it's a pretty exciting renovation that they did. So each of those little coffered bays that you see, they're illuminated with LEDs, and it's fully controllable by the darkroom staff, so they can change colors.
What's that ceiling lighting there? Is that something you put in?
Yeah, that little, the illuminated, like, rectangular areas, that's the coffered area with the LED lights.
Nice.
So, and that can be, it's fully dimmable and controllable.
Nice. Let's go to the next one.
So here we see after the space has been renovated from the bar looking toward the east, and you can see some of the artwork installed.
Very good.
And again, so this is actually following the renovation of the theater space, which is just beyond those closed doors. And here, this is another Kranzberg space. This is the Kranzberg Arts Center Gallery, and that's at the corner of Grand and Olive, just down the street. And so this, what you're seeing here, is an exhibition that was done in conjunction with that space in the darkroom.
Well, you mentioned Kranzberg. I'm glad you brought that up. The Kranzbergs, which is a couple, Nancy and Ken, right? My mind just went blank there for a second. Are very involved in the arts in St. Louis and have done a lot of things. Kranzberg Center is a few blocks away. What I didn't realize was that the Kranzbergs were involved with the darkroom from the beginning a few years ago. I never saw their name involved in it, but they were part of it.
Yeah, they were a part of opening the space. So it was one of those investment ventures where they were looking to contribute back to the arts, and the space was opened. They provided the facilities and the physical location of the space, and the idea originally was that the curation would be a partnership with the International Photography Hall of Fame, and it was that for the first year or two, and then it moved into more of the Kranzberg zone domain after that. Yep.
And what was your role when you first started there?
Well, when I first started, I was with the International Photography Hall of Fame as their director of exhibitions, and as a part of our agreement, I took over from some of the curators that came before me, so there were 4 exhibits before I came on board.
And didn't the Photography Hall of Fame move from another city to here?
They did.
Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, so that's a more than 50-year-old institution now. I think they had their 50th anniversary last year, and they moved here from Oklahoma City. So, yeah.
So do you think it's unusual that we have like that and the dark room, these photography galleries and things?
Yeah, I think it is pretty unusual, yeah.
It's not everywhere, is it?
No, it's not, no. It makes the Grand Center a pretty unique neighborhood, both within St. Louis and within the region.
So is the Kranzberg, are the roles changing now? Can you explain what's happening?
Sure. Kranzberg Arts Foundation has become bigger. So, and that's part of where we see the roles beginning to shift. So when I came on board, we had several curators that had done exhibitions previous to me, but the focus of the darkroom wasn't yet known or determined. So when I came on board, that was my sort of plan to basically create a format for the darkroom. And that included focusing on individual artists' work in series, so from emerging to mid-career artists local to St. Louis. And so for the last 3 years, that's pretty much what I've done. Do
you think the darkroom will continue to evolve in that way, change their focus as time goes on, or?
Well, with the new program, so when I leave at the end of this year, right, I'll be replaced with a residency program, which will allow 2 curators to come into the space and work jointly or independently to program the space, 6 exhibitions a year.
How do you think that's going to change what you offer?
It could change it dramatically or not very much, but what it will certainly do is it'll provide more voices for the space, which is something that I think is very much in line with the mission of the Kranzberg Arts Foundation, is to provide a voice and opportunities for the community as a whole.
How does Chris Hansen figure into all this?
Yeah, Chris is our executive director, so he has slowly moved into that position from managing the darkroom and other spaces, and now he does manage all the spaces for the Kranzberg Arts Foundation.
Well, we've got some images, I think, from past exhibits.
Yeah.
That maybe even before your time. So why don't we take a look at them? And
yeah. So this first image is actually from before my time at the darkroom. This would have been from 2014, and it may be one of a series of works that's represented by a gallerist named Jeff Appel. And he's great for the photography community, both in St. Louis and beyond. And he programmed an exhibition of black and white works. I think this is from that.
That's quite striking. I don't know, sort of therapeutic looking.
Yeah, so this is from an exhibition at the darkroom that I curated This was actually during the transition from the old space into the new one, and it was by an artist named Daniel Schuler. He's a photojournalist, and he followed the campaign trail for each of the various candidates
That's
all
a
across
Donald
the country.
Trump, or part of a Donald Trump.
Yes, this is from a Donald Trump rally, and this is sort of the afterwards. And the exhibition itself was called Campaign, two distinct words with pain spelled out as.
Sort of what does that picture say to you?
Yeah, well, what's interesting about this particular image is that it became something else. The whole exhibition became something else. When I originally conceived it, it was on the eve of the election, and of course, after the election, the idea for what it symbolized completely changed. But if you read it literally, it says America, which is kind of appropriate.
I'm still thinking about campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's going to stick in my head for a while. Let's look at the next one.
Yep, so this is an image from the same exhibition. This is of a Bernie Sanders rally.
I was going to say, Bernie.
Yep, so that unmistakable head there. And in talking to Daniel, he had some difficulty getting into the Trump rallies. They were a lot more restrictive on media and allowing media to get in, so it was hard for him to get media passes to attend those events. Bernie Sanders was the most lenient, and you can see he's directly behind him here, so he got pretty good access.
Some of those faces and expressions, that's just captivating.
Yeah, and glad you pointed that out. So this image is as much about Bernie Sanders as it is about the people who have come to see him, and I think it really becomes more about their reaction to him.
I like that a lot.
So this is an exhibition that I curated with Feast. So their art director, Alex Povis.
Which is a magazine.
Yes, yep. So Alexandra Povis.
A food magazine.
Food magazine here in St. Louis, yep. And they do wonderful food photography. This is an image by Jennifer Silverberg.
What's going up in the air there?
It is...
and what's the food?
Food. I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's salt being sprinkled, would be my guess, or powdered sugar, one of the two. But Jennifer, if you're probably familiar with your work, even if with her work, even if you don't think that you are, because it's been published in Sauce, Feast, Riverfront Times, Post-Dispatch.
So is there any particular formula as far as, does the dark room focus on local photographers, or does that even matter?
Currently it does. So it does focus on local or regional photographers, and that's a part of that kind of streamlining the concept and building a platform. So we wanted people to know about the darkroom. We wanted to build some expectation in terms of what visitors would see when they came to the darkroom, and building that around photographic series by local artists was the way in which we achieved that.
Well, for someone like me that doesn't know, what's the photography scene like in St. Louis?
It's varied, so it's old too. So once upon a time, we had the second oldest camera club in the entire country, which still exists, actually. It's here in St. Louis, and at the time, it was one of the largest.
People have cameras?
People still have cameras, yeah, despite also having smartphones.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, it's the difference, though, is that photography in St. Louis has sort of become more disparate. It's more spread out, so it's kind of not surrounding the city as much as it used to, but we're seeing that change.
All right, well, we need to take a quick break, Jason. We'll be back with more about the darkroom and new things happening there right after this.
Welcome, innovators, dreamers, pioneers of the 21st century. We've been expecting you to come discover your dreams and make your ideas take flight. Just like so many explorers that came before you. Welcome to the hub of opportunity. Welcome to St. Louis. Always exploring.
Steve Potter. Welcome back to City Corner. We're talking with Jason Gray. He's the curator at the Dark Room at Grand Center,
Yes.
and recently moved to the Granville Theater. You know, when you're in your old space, just a block south, a little bit closer to the Fox, I liked it because whenever I drive home, you know, you had those big windows right on the street, and
Yes.
I could always look in and see people at tables and the three-piece
Yeah.
band playing or whatever it was, and you know, now I can't see what's going on.
Right, that's true. It's all enclosed. That's right.
So how's business been?
It's been great. Yeah. So we've had quite a bit of media buzz surrounding the opening, and the word's definitely out.
Well, the few times I was at the old place, I went like before a show at the Fox. How do people generally lose it? I'm sure there's some of that, right? People coming there before or after other events.
Yeah. Yeah. The theater helps. So what we found though in the years that we've been open and operating there is that it's less of an impact than we originally thought it would be. So originally we thought that would be, you know, the driver of traffic to the space. But what we found is that the people are coming, you know, to enjoy the space. They're coming to
Destination
eat.
spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So and the live music helps. We have the Wednesday night jazz crawl, for instance. It occurs through the neighborhood. And,
Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's I believe it's every Wednesday. It's a jazz crawl with several other venues attached, and it's through the Grand Center neighborhood. So you start in one venue and you wind up in another, and you see live jazz performances throughout.
Well, let's go back and take a look at some images of some of the exhibitions that have been at the Dark Room, kind of give you an idea. Well, this is...
Yeah, this is an image of Jenny Lewis, a musician, and this is one of the exhibitions that I curated. This is actually from the exhibit that was the joint show with the Kranzberg Arts Center Gallery.
I'm not familiar with her. What can you tell me about her?
Yeah, she's a sort of an indie artist, right? She's been around for quite a number of years and pretty popular. The photographer is actually Abby Gallardi, so she photographed a lot for 11 magazine.
Great color and energy going on in that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And with that show, I was looking at, we had the official photographer for what was Riverport, I guess it's Verizon.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, me neither. No, but so the photographer designated for that space as our kind of highest level of photographer. Then we had a photographer who's a very high rank from another genre, the commercial photographer for the St. Louis Art Museum, who also photographed music, and then a beginning music photographer, which is Abby here.
Nice. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, so this image is by photographer Don McKenna. So he's one of the examples of a photographer who's very, very much established in their career. And this is from the first exhibit that launched the new space at the Granville. And he works...
Is that like the back of a drive-in theater?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what it looks like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, so he photographed these sort of all around the Midwest. They're all photographed with large format cameras, film, and then printed very large.
Miss those drive-ins.
Yeah, this is another one of his. What looks like might be a home in Southern California or perhaps Florida, right? It's actually on the shores of Lake Michigan.
I could live there even though it's pink.
Right, yeah.
We'll look at some more of these in just a little bit, but we were talking about the Dark Room, and you said right now the focus is pretty much on local photographers, which probably means regional.
Yeah, exactly, yep. So,
And how many photographers can make a living at photography these days? Does anyone actually make a full-time living at it?
sure, yeah, there are a lot of people working within photography that do make a full-time living.
It's got to be rough, huh?
It can be, yeah. You have to kind of piece together different elements, although there are exceptions to that. A couple of very notable commercial photography firms in St. Louis, like Brute and Strobe.
You know, we talked about, I made a little joke about do people still have cameras now? And how is all that, you know, I remember when I grew up, getting a little camera was like a big deal. And
Yeah.
now, like, everyone has one with them. I don't know, has that changed? How am I going to put this? Has the fact that, like, everyone takes pictures and posts them on social media, has that sort of changed the world for professional photographers? It has
Yeah.
to have in some way.
It certainly does, yeah. I mean, every 3 days, our current global culture produces 400 billion images. So that's a lot.
Say that again?
Every 3 days, 400 billion images are made, right? So, and just about every week, we see more images made than were produced in the entire 19th century. So that's quite a lot of output. And it's changed the way photography is done, too. It's now, as well as being a document, it's also an experience. So you see, when I would go on vacation as a kid, and it was in the film days, your parents may shoot, a couple rolls of film, or
Right.
you may shoot a couple rolls of film. Now there are hundreds, if not thousands, of images generated while on vacation. And so in doing that, it becomes a part of the experience of wherever it is that you're going, right? So that participation that you have with the camera in the environment in which you're aiming it and pointing it and photographing it becomes a part of the experience of visiting that place.
And the technology has changed so much. When I was young and had a camera, I think my phone takes a better picture than my professional camera did 40 years ago.
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, it's you definitely have great image quality out of the latest smartphones, and then excellent connectivity. So certainly can do more things than the old.
I would
film
think that
cameras.
might irritate professional photographers. Now everybody thinks they can do it.
Right. Yeah. Well, you see it an impact of it, across all genres of photography, right? So you see iPhone images being used in media, in the press, for
I
instance.
read an article somewhere within the last couple of weeks. I don't know how much truth to it, but talking a little bit how maybe cameras will be coming back.
Oh, film cameras?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've thought about that, and there is a film resurgence happening, but it's different from like something, for instance, like the vinyl resurgence, right? So there's vinyl industry is growing, so it's growing beyond where it was when it was declared dead, right? And it seems to get bigger and bigger every year. The film resurgence is sort of it's precipitated by something a little bit different in that it's more of a photographer-led movement. The vinyl's definitely consumer-driven. Like people buy vinyl because they love the way it sounds.
Right.
It's a distinct difference. You don't see the resurgence in film because clients are asking for film images necessarily, right? It's mostly about such a different experience and such a more holistic experience to shoot film photography.
I guess I was just assuming that you're a photographer because of what you do. I don't even know if that's true.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've kind of started out in photography. I had a wedding and portrait photography business in Chicago that came here with me, and then that's kind of become more of a sideline, a very infrequent thing. And yeah.
Wow. Let's look at some more images from some past exhibits at the darkroom.
Yeah. So this image is as well from the series that was done in conjunction with Feast. Most of these images were featured on the cover of the magazine.
I have no idea what it is, but I want to eat it.
Yeah, me too. So, and one of the interesting things about these is that with the magazine, they have a distinct orientation, and certainly the photographers are photographing with that in mind, but we were given the flexibility to, when I sequenced and programmed the show, I could move them to any orientation, so there was opportunity to experiment with some of the compositions.
Definitely works. Let's go to the next one.
So this image was photographed by an individual who works with the Missouri Department of Conservation named Dan Zarlenga. This is, again, another exhibit that I curated, and what's unique about these is that you see star trails in Missouri, so which is not somewhere where you'd consider generally a destination for photographing that sort of thing.
So those white lines in the sky,
Yeah.
how is that done?
So it's in terms of how Dan did it, there are a couple ways that you can do it, but Dan shoots hundreds of images over a period of time and then uses software to stitch them together.
What's your philosophy about that? Is there a fine line? I think I've always thought of myself as a purist when it comes to photography, and when you do too much photoshopping or technical changes to it, I don't know. Are there ethics involved there?
There can be, depending on what its output is. If you're using it for news, certainly you want to use as little editing, if not no editing. However, I think there's a distinct difference in photography between artistic truth and photographic truth, right? Photographic truth meaning you're documenting exactly something as it occurred in front of the camera, and artistic truth meaning it honors more what you're trying to say as the photographer behind the camera.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's look at some more.
So here we have an image. This is that amphitheater that I don't know the exact name of, I believe. This is photographed.
One out towards St. Charles.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So Kenny Williamson is a photographer, and he's their official photographer for that venue.
Let's look at one more.
Okay, so this image is, I believe, also from the series or the exhibit that Jeff Appel curated before I came aboard. So it looks like it certainly fits in line with some of the stuff that he shows.
You recently had an exhibit. I'd like you to tell me about it. It's gone now. But the Grandparents Project sounded really interesting to me.
Yeah. So the Grandparents Project by Jeannie Leteau was an exhibit we had just before the one that's up currently. And it was the result of a multi-year investigative project on behalf of the artist. So her grandmother died a few years back, and it led her to really become interested in the relationships that people have with their grandparents. And so she started out photographing the grandparents of friends and family, and then expanded beyond that to complete strangers. And we had the opportunity to show that work at the darkroom.
Let's look at, we have 3 more images, I think. Let's check those out.
Yeah, so this was a fun exhibit by a photographer named Jared Gastrite, and we called it Street Smarts. That was my title for it, and it portrays people using their smartphones in traditional sort of street photography scenarios. He's a photographer that originated in St. Louis. Most of these are shot in Chicago, which is where he now lives.
Let's go to the next one.
So here we have an image yet.
This one needs explanation.
Right, and unfortunately I can't give it. So this is actually not from one of my shows. This is from one of the shows that I believe predated me. So there was 1 or 2 shows in particular that had a strong conceptual element to them.
Yeah, I'd like to know, I'd love to talk to the photographer to see what this means.
Yes, yeah, it would be interesting.
Let's go to the next one.
Okay, so here we have an image by the artist Jen Everett, and this is an image from the next show that will be opening at the beginning of September. It's a show that joins 2 series of her work, right? An Inimitable Blackness, which is what this image is from, and then Blues for St. Louis.
How often do the exhibits change there?
Every 2 months. So in the past, we've had exhibits stretch beyond that. So this year we'll have 6 full exhibits, previous year 4.
So I guess we just need to watch, because you talked about the new residency program coming up. That's going to change everything, and that'll be sometime next year?
Yeah. So the beginning of the year is when we're planning for it. So there will be 2 new curators coming in and participating with the venue in the capacity of curator for that beginning next year. And it'll be a residency program that renews annually.
And do you have any future plans or goals ahead?
I don't know. I think I'll remain somehow with the Kranzberg Arts Foundation. It's a really great foundation, and they've been very supportive of me, and it's been wonderful to be a part of it.
And how have you felt being in Grandson the last few years? Because, relatively speaking, it's sort of a new district, and it's really, in the last 10 years or so, really come around. What do you think about it?
I think it's great. So we have a neighborhood in addition to the Central West End in the city that's walkable. And
Well, Jason Gray, thank you so much for everything you've done at the Darkroom. We're excited that you're going to still be involved with them. We're excited about the new changes there.
Thank you.
I hope people will drop by and take a look.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we have for this edition of City Corner. I'm Steve Potter. Thanks for watching. I hope you come back and join us next time.